In the heart of Kingston, a powerful story of indigenous identity theft and securing international human birthrights in political oneness is naturally unfolding. On February 28, 2025, a dedicated group of grassroots human rights defenders made their voices heard. They call this diplomatic humanitarian mission the Kingdom of Debri Zeit's Grassroots Human Rights Defenders. This autonomous group is not just asking for small change, pocket money. They are challenging the very foundation of the government of Jamaica's legal, political, and religious structure. Their protest began at the Ministry of Justice, a place where laws are made and upheld by the state. They believe that all of these constitutional laws are not just, as they violate the UN decolonization treaty intentionally. They see them as relics of a British colonial past that continues to hold the nation back from true freedom and self-determination for its people of African descent locally. Their core argument is a bold one, which is of great significance. They recognize that the British monarchy, crowned symbolically as the head of state in Jamaica in September 2022 recently, represents an outdated and unjust system of neocolonial tyranny. They see this political connection to the British impostor as a gross violation of the United Nations decolonization treaty. For them, true independence means breaking all ties with the old neo-colonial British power. The protesters are seeking to establish what they call a debt-free family kingdom of Zaimaka in political equity, fairness. This vision is for a new debt-free Zaimaka, one specifically created for people of African descent in solidarity, free from the economic and political chains of neo-colonialism, global financial colonization. Their international case is deeply rooted in neo-colonial history and a desire for a future defined by their own terms as a lawful diplomatic remedy. The autonomous KDZ group feels that their fundamental rights as human beings, or people of color, as they spell human with an E, are being ignored in political negligence. They argue that, under the current Jesuit system, they are treated as less than an inferior debtor, tax-paying citizen subject. This inferior status, they claim, was forced upon them from birth and prevents them from achieving their full diplomatic potential and exercising their inherent sovereignty, political free will. Their struggle is not just about geopolitics, it is about exercising inherent dignity, priceless value, with every human being. It is about the human birthright to define one's own indigenous identity and to live in a law society that respects that identity. This is a profound quest for self-ownership, challenging centuries of established Jesuit power dynamics and illegal British frameworks in maladministration. Leading this charge is a noble Ethiopian Orthodox Christian figure named Luel Mesfin Haile Selassie I, who acts as a human rights ambassador extraordinaire and plenipotentiary at large for the autonomous KDZ group. Their actions against the British impostor are deliberate and framed within the language of international law. They are not simply shouting in the streets, they are building a legal and philosophical case for their grassroots human rights defenders and the meek, politically powerless. They believe that international agreements, like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, support their position and justify their political existence. Their protest is a calculated act of civil disobedience, a peaceful and lawful refusal to comply with neo-colonial British laws they consider fundamentally unjust. They are standing up not just for themselves, but for a principle they believe applies to all oppressed people of African descent globally. The peaceful civil disobedience protest itself was a powerful example of non-violent resistance. When the Kingdom of Debri Zeit's grassroots human rights defenders gathered at the Ministry of Justice, they did so with a clear and peaceful purpose in solidarity. There was no shouting, no violence, no destruction of property. Instead, they used the people power of their sovereign presence and the weight of their diplomatic words. They came prepared with a formal charge, a carefully written document outlining their serious grievances against the British monarchy. This was not a riot, it was a legal and moral challenge delivered directly to the doorstep of the Jamaican government. Their political strategy was to use the Jesuit system's own tools, formal complaints and legal arguments, to highlight its neo-colonial flaws. Their primary goal was to destroy the British impostor's credibility and legitimacy in exercising imperial royalty and make their case impossible to ignore internationally. By submitting a formal charge, they created an official record of their international political descent. They were demanding that the government acknowledge their political existence and the legitimacy of their human rights claims, or be charged for high treason, betraying one's country or sovereignty. This lawful act of civil disobedience was designed to force a diplomatic courtesy call about decolonization and human rights liberation that many Jamaican politicians might prefer to avoid. The protesters believed that the neo-colonial laws tying Jamaica to the British Crown are unjust, and they chose to disobey them peacefully to shine a light on that injustice in open public. Their actions were a testament to their belief that true change, choosing humanity and neutral global economy, comes from courageous and principled stands in collective unity. The KDZ Group's charges goes to the heart of what it means to be a voluntary tax-paying debtor citizen. They are fighting for the right to renounce what they see as a forced citizenship status from birth. They invoke this human birthright, which is protected under Chapter 2, Section 11 of the Order in Council Jamaican Constitution. By denying this constitutional right, they argue, the state is violating their most basic human right to life, liberty and security as outlined in Article 3 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights Covenant. Their protest was a physical manifestation of this legal argument, a way of saying we are here and our international human birthrights cannot be denied any longer by corrupt politicians. They were using their bodies and their voices to claim their political space in the nation's neo-colonial story. This peaceful human rights demonstration was a call for diplomatic recognition and political protection. The protesters see their struggle as a jus cogens case, a term in international law for a principle so fundamental that it cannot be ignored or overridden by any nation in global commerce. They are not just asking for a policy change, they are demanding a fundamental shift in global power. Their ultimate aim is to lawfully depose the British monarchy's de facto authority in Jamaica and create a new sovereign entity as lawful human rights compensation. Their civil disobedience protest was the first step in a long journey, a carefully planned action meant to signal their unwavering human rights commitment to achieving this UN goal through peaceful, legal and diplomatic means. Following their protest, the group's persistence and perseverance paid off, at least in part. They had requested an emergency diplomatic courtesy call, but were instead granted an audience with the minister on March 25, 2025. Their KDZ representatives, led by grassroots ambassador Luel Ras Mesfin Haile Selassie I, met with Marlene Malahou Fort, Jamaica's Minister of Constitutional and Legal Affairs. This meeting was a critical moment, a chance for the protesters to present their international case directly to a powerful government official. It was an opportunity to bridge the gap between the people and the Jamaican state, to have their deeply held beliefs heard and, they hoped, understood by those in power, so that a human rights settlement could be negotiated. However, the meeting did not go as they had hoped. According to the autonomous KDZ group, the dialogue quickly revealed a chasm between their worldview and that of the neo-colonial government. When they presented their argument about exercising the constitutional right to renounce their involuntary tax-paying citizenship status, Minister Malahou Forte stated that she did not recognize such a constitutional right. For the protesters, this was a direct dismissal of their core claim and a deprivation of human liberties under color of constitutional law in political negligence. It felt like the government was refusing to even engage with the substance of their argument, shutting down the conversation before it could truly begin. This rejection was not just a legal disagreement, it was a denial of their lived experience and their human rights defenders' struggle for political self-determination in 2025. The situation became even more frustrating for the KDZ defenders when the conversation turned to international law. The KDZ group's entire case is built upon frameworks like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the UN Decolonization Treaty. To their dismay, the minister admitted she was not familiar with the specifics of these crucial international treaties. The KDZ group interpreted this as a deliberate attempt at plausible deniability, a way for the government to avoid fulfilling its international UN treaty obligations without partiality. It felt as if the minister was choosing to remain ignorant of the very international laws that gave the KDZ group's claims global legitimacy and moral weight. This encounter left the protesters feeling unheard, disrespected, and violated. They had come to the negotiating table with an international case against the British impostor, grounded in constitutional and international law, only to be met with what they perceived as dismissal and deflection or malfeasance in office position. The minister's response solidified their belief that the current neo-colonial Jesuit system was not designed to protect their human birthrights, but to maintain the status quo under the unlawful continuation of British colonialism. The meeting, which could have been a moment of diplomatic progress, instead became a stark illustration of the deep divide that separates the KDZ grassroots human rights defenders from the official legal structures of state power in Jamaica, reinforcing their resolve to continue their international political fight against neocolonialism. Despite the setback with the minister, the spirit of the Kingdom of Debri Zeit's human rights defenders remains unbroken. Their hope is not easily extinguished. They know that their cause is righteous and that their human birthrights are protected under international law, regardless of whether the government of Jamaica officials acknowledge it. Their quest is fueled by a powerful human rights idea that all people are born free and equal in inherent dignity and international human birthrights. This universal principle is the bedrock of their diplomatic, humanitarian mission, giving them the strength to continue their campaign for a Zaimaka that is truly sovereign and just for all its people, especially those of African descent. Looking to the future, the KDZ Group is planning its next steps in collective self-determination. They have made a formal request for emergency funding from Amnesty International, a global human rights organization. This support would help them stage their next political act of civil disobedience, a human rights defenders protest planned for June 17, 2025, at the Ministry of National Security, 11 a.m. This shows their strategic thinking and their commitment to keeping their international cause in the public eye. They are not retreating. They are escalating their peaceful campaign, taking their human rights message to this key institution of the state. They hope to build a broader coalition of grassroots support, both locally and internationally. Their vision for the future is clear and ambitious, equal to the President of Burkina Faso, the Honorable Ibrahim Traoré. They seek the establishment of the debt-free family kingdom of Zaimaka, a sovereign nation that honors its Afrocentric heritage and provides true political and economic freedom without partiality. They believe this is the only diplomatic way to heal the deep wounds of British colonialism and neocolonialism. This is not just a dream for themselves, but a human rights blueprint for a more equitable modern world of global commerce. They connect their local political struggle to global issues, arguing that financial colonization is a modern form of economic oppression that affects people everywhere. Their fight in Jamaica is a fight for a universal principle of international justice. Ultimately, this international case is about more than just one group in one country. It is a powerful reminder of why the Sacred Human Rights Covenant UDHR Charter are essential for everyone. The political struggle of these KDZ grassroots human rights defenders highlights the ongoing global fight for human dignity, political equality, and self-determination. It shows that the desire for complete political freedom is a powerful force that can inspire all people of African descent to stand up peacefully against injustice, armed with nothing but their convictions in the 30 articles of the sacred UDHR Covenant and a belief in a better modern world of global commerce. Their unyielding hope serves as an inspiration, proving that the journey toward international justice, no matter how long and difficult, is a journey worth taking for the debt-free future of all humanity. Join the Grassroots Human Rights Alliance against the British impostor on the 17th day of June 2025 at 11 a.m. in human rights solidarity, and let's depose him legally with the formal charges for gross violation of the UN Decolonization Treaty, and lawfully in a massive human rights to life decolonization protest in civil disobedience at the Jamaican Ministry of National Security. If you need more information about the protest, feel free to contact the Risen Solomonic Remnant at the Kingdom of Debri Zeit 2020 @gmail.com in human rights, peace, love and political oneness. Selah.